All right.
Looks good. Um,
Oh,
so, JG, are you kicking off or I'm kicking off?
No, you're kicking off. This is your show from now on.
Okay, great. Well, awesome. Great, guys. So, Trav and I had a great time talking to some groups. I met with, I don't know which number you guys are, but I met with the team last night. It looks really strong. 3? All right, good. Met with team 3. The research looks really strong. So this bar is set high. So I think just to recap from last time, I walked you guys through which client we're working on. So we're working with Lululemon, specifically the Lululemon post-Mirror acquisition. And we're discovering purely on a research basis where we are in the landscape right now in terms of fitness, right? So you had a bunch of models to work with. You could have worked with the 4 Cs. You could have worked with SWOT analysis. You could have done the Ikigai model, which is a little more non-traditional. All of this is to say, I didn't expect you guys to do all of them. I didn't expect you to even pick any of them. Whatever you guys found most useful, and just figuring out, what is the competitive landscape? What's the cultural landscape? Help us understand better what we're working with here. If you're going to start a new business pitch, it always starts with understanding your client better. So for you guys, what did that look like, right? So hopefully you guys had fun doing that. We're just going to go in group order, and we're going to present what everyone found. And I'm going to go group by group. So I'm just going to give you guys critique. I'm going to let you guys finish whatever presentation you have. And again, like I said last week, it doesn't have to be a PowerPoint or a keynote or whatever. It could literally be an outline. I don't care. I just want to see some kind of proof that you guys went through the rigor of doing the research, right? I'm going to let you guys finish, and you tell me when you're done with your presentation, and then I'll give feedback as it goes live. I have some stuff to show you guys towards the second half of today. But first, let me just share my screen and run through something very quickly. So Rod, if you can allow me to please share the screen. I'm just going to run through these slides very quickly, and then we'll see what you guys have, and then it'll go back to me as well.
Participants.
All right, desktop 1. Let's do it. So yeah, just a quick recap, guys, just so I don't go insane. Mirror, Lululemon, duh, that's what we're working with. Jobs to be done, some things that I threw out there that we'll be working through for the next 4 weeks now. So we could go and take this from a brand strategy and creative positioning exercise, or we can work on go-to-market retail innovation. We can work from a social strategy angle, or a comms planning angle, or even a product development and experience design angle. These are all things that I've identified as where ad agencies are headed in terms of what they're responsible for, what clients are looking to them for, and hopefully these are all capabilities that you guys are baking into your own resumes, or it seems like some of you have your own agencies, so some of the capabilities that you guys offer, just some things to think about, right? So again, we worked through the Ikigai model, which I'm not going to go through again, the functional, personal, and communal implications model, which works through, 1, functionally, what does this acquisition mean for Lululemon? For the individual consumer that goes to Lululemon for gear, what does this mean for them? And then for the community around the Lululemon consumer, what does this acquisition mean for them? We worked through the 4 Cs, or looked at rather. But one thing that I would like to bring up that I missed last time that we'll walk through today, and I'll sort of give you the feedback in this framework, which is within the 4 Cs, one of the C's is competition, right? And I think this is one of the most important layers to think about. It is not a equal ratio across all 4 Cs, right? Every single brand that you work on is going to lean more heavily towards one of the Cs. For me, this looks like a big opportunity. And I think, Rod, you kicked this off by saying there's already a new competitor that you found, right? So one of the things that for us is a big opportunity is think about, who are the competitors? Like, who is going to be in this virtual workout space, and who is going to continue to be in the old sphere of Lululemon's competition, right? So directly, who's your competitor? And then culturally, who's your competitor? And I think one of the things that group 3 inspired me to think more about is the intersectionality of fitness as it lives today, right? So fitness isn't just about the clothes you wear or the gym you go to. It's also about beauty, right? So how do you view yourself, right? what is your workout routine going to do for you in terms of aesthetic, right? Are you going into the gym for a six-pack, or are you going into the gym to blow off steam? Huge mental difference, right? So health and wellness, beauty, cosmetics, fashion, of course, all these different categories and industries are informing our consumers' outlook onto fitness, right? And then it's also experiential, right? So these different digital and technological platforms that are also informing the way that consumers interact with brands as a whole, right? So when we look at Lululemon, it's not just about buying clothes, it's also about how do we access the act of buying clothes. Nike gamifies the act of buying clothes all the time. Nike Fuel Points, right? The Fuel Band increases your likelihood of getting promos, discounts, first access to new gear, new drops, whatever, the gamification of buying clothes. Or looking at companies like Uber, the expectation that you have things like getting last mile delivery for the lowest rate possible, not having to go through the yellow cab process, and just being able to order a car to your doorstep. Or looking at places like Amazon that are making it possible for you to get whatever you click buy on today, by tomorrow, or by the same day delivery, right? So what are the experiential players that are informing the way that we're looking at the competitive landscape? Does anyone have any questions there? You could just speak out. I'm not going to be able to see if you're raising your hand. Please stop me at any point. So this is just another lens I thought was pretty interesting as you're going through the research phase, which, by the way, this next week is going to be refining your research. It's going to be starting to look at the gaps and opportunities that your research is going to enable or identify, right? Before we get to the ideation phase, this is going to be very crucial. If you did not do the rigor of going through research, and I'm not saying anyone didn't, right? If you did not go about it in the smartest way possible, obviously knowing that everyone's time is very limited, these frameworks are going to help you get very specific on the inputs you need while you do the research to get to the big ideas that are really going to help put your pitch forward. All right, and then of course the SWOT analysis model. And I promise you guys, I'm going to show you some Adidas presentations, a new business pitch. We might not even get to the competitive audit, but that's okay because I believe I sent it to you guys last time. But I do want to kick off this class by starting with the get to buy model, which is something that I didn't get to last time, which I think is going to be pretty interesting to walk through now, right? So the whole point of doing all this research, anyone can do research, right? Like we did research when we were in college, we did research when we were in high school, we did research in middle school and before even, right? Everyone knows how to read, but to read and synthesize into an actionable insight, and when I say insight, I mean something that's going to unlock a different way of approaching a business model, right? That is going to take a lot of critical thought and critical theory. One of the ways that I like to go through this translation from insights to actual research to performative insights is through this model that was designed a lot through Julian Cole back when he was at, I believe, BBDO, right? So if you guys haven't checked it out, please go to Sweathead. Please go to Planning Dirty. These are two really, really incredible resources that are available all over the globe for strategists working on literally any kind of brand. So to kick off the get to buy model, it's very, very simple. It's a way of structuring your deck to show your client that you've done the research in three crucial ways: getting a target audience and a consumer problem to change a mental or a mindset or a behavior by defining the role of the brand, right? So identifying key message or key action, whether it's a service, a product, or communications and content, right? Does that all make sense? Cool. So diving into this framework, the next step is to actually think about how do we break it up into like formatting all the research you've done fits into this 4x4, right? So identifying the problem, which I specifically didn't hand out a new business brief because I wanted this project to be a malleable project based on what you guys want to work on, which lens you want to take, exactly the jobs to be done, right? I don't care if you're going about it from a product management perspective or communications or advertising perspective, all of this is going to be relevant, right? So the problem is exactly whatever problem you want to tackle, right? So whether the problem is, I want to help Lululemon launch this new mirror service from a communication standpoint. So is it an awareness play that people don't know about it? Or is it a people want to work out at home so that they don't put themselves at risk. And Lululemon is solving that problem, right? So you guys have to define whatever problem you're solving and then think about how is Lululemon gaining a competitive edge in order to solve for that problem? What is the insight that they need to learn in order to inform their strategy? This is a lot. So I'm actually going to fill this out through an exercise that was already done by Harriet from Minimal Strategist. And it's going to help you inform how to actually fill out this grid to get to the get to buy model, right? So the problem that she identified is, how do we sell fountain pens to the modern office worker, right? Very, very simple task, right? If you're Montblanc, one of the largest luxury retailers in the world, and you make fountain pens, you have never been less relevant than in today's digital economy. Truth, like universal truth. It just is, right? Even if you're Bic and you're selling cheap pens, you're less relevant because every modern office worker is using their laptop before they write in a notepad. Whether that's true or not, that is a problem. And the problem that she framed it as, and again, this is not going to be a brief. This is something that you have to come up with on your own in order to pitch something to Lululemon, right? This is a proactive pitch. So writing by hand is restrictive, it's inefficient, and it's out of touch. These are all insights that someone had to synthesize from doing a lot of research, right? So writing by hand is restrictive, inefficient, and out of touch, but the competitive edge of making fountain pens, a very traditional writing tool, is that pens can actually capture thoughts that computers can't, right? And that's true. When you're taking notes during a conference call, or you're taking notes during a client meeting, it's easier to write by hand because actually you can draw pictures, you can write actual words, or you can write shorthand. For those of you that English isn't your first language, like myself, sometimes I catch myself writing in another language because I know it's more efficient than writing in English, right? So the idea is that pens work at the speed of thought, whereas computers, you're limited to a keyboard, right? And you could type something wrong and you have to backspace, or you have to put in a space after every letter, whereas a pen, you're just writing fluidly. So the insight is that computers force you to be perfectly organized, but thought is incredibly messy. We can think more than one thought at a time. This is just psychologically true, right? When someone speaks words to you, you're forming an emotional reaction and you're forming a visual reaction, right? A pen can capture that because you write at the speed of thought, but a computer forces you to type only one thought at one time. So then our strategy as a brand, as Montblanc selling fountain pens to the modern office worker, is to actually just show that your mind and therefore your ideas flow better through ink. And from that, it's going to unlock the big idea, right? You could see going from the problem to competitive edge to the insight to the strategy, how you're unlocking an entire beautiful campaign based off of this one insight, which is your mind and ideas flow better through ink. Right. And obviously she didn't follow up with the whole campaign because that's not what we're doing here. The pitch, though, is to show that you've done the research and you know where to head in terms of a business positioning. Does everything in here make sense to you guys? Great. So again, when we bring it back to the get to buy model, now we get office workers who think that writing by hand is restrictive or out of touch to realize that writing by hand is often the quickest way to get to the answer by, again, the strategy showing that ideas flow better through ink, right? Very, very simple. We've condensed probably a week of research into a grid to show how each thing gets categorized into one slide that just does all of your strategy for you. And a client reading this would say, you get it, you get the business problem, you get the challenge, and you also get how we're going to win. So now let's get to the big idea, right? But before we get to the big idea, we have to show the rigor of having done research. Cool. So that's get to buy model. The next model I'm going to show you is the Kano model. So for those of you guys that want to work more on the experiential or service design or product design aspect of a business, right? So if you're thinking about it not so much as how do I advertise that Lululemon is now selling Mirror as a service, but more interested in, okay, great. Now that Mirror has another $500 million to play with, what would I do to make Mirror a better service? And how would I use Mirror to make the Lululemon retail ecosystem more seamless and more integrated for the consumer? The Kano model is going to be crucial for understanding how you can build things that users actually want and are going to increase their brand affinity when it comes to thinking about you as a brand, right? So there are two axes on the Kano model, very, very simple to follow: satisfaction and functionality. And if you think, well, I already kind of understand what's going on here, you probably do, right? So satisfaction is ranked from frustrated to delighted, right? So our goal of using this customer satisfaction model is to think about, as you increase the functionality of something, is it going to make your user go from very frustrated to actually satisfied while using your product? And I'm going to give you some examples of this later on. But for right now, just absorb this one axis, right? And the other axis is, as something becomes more functional, is it going to help them use your product or service better? Right? And so to give you actually an example, like functionality at its maximum with no increase to satisfaction means that it's a must-be feature. If you're confused, that's okay, right? An example of a must-be feature is 4 wheels on a car. We're just going to use cars as an example because it's going to be the easiest to carry through, right? As you increase the functionality of 4 wheels on a car is not adding any satisfaction whatsoever. You just simply need it for the car to run, pure and simple. Right? It's like an engine. As you increase the functionality of an engine, it's not going to make your car run any better. It's not going to make your car any more appealing, but it's going to help it run better, right? That's just what it is. Whereas on the other side, attractive features are things like, let's say, AirPlay or CarPlay in a car, right? So, or speaker system, right? As you increase the functionality of a speaker system in a car, it makes it more attractive. It makes it better to use because it's more enjoyable, but it isn't going to help the car run any better, right? And so a lot of people focus a lot of time on attractive features because, well, it's sexy, right? And luxury goods usually focus a lot here because luxury goods that's what they're expected to do. It's not just about functionality, it's about things that make it look sexy or feel sexy, right? But really what we want to do right now, and when you go into new business pitch, you really want to focus on performance features, which is what is something that's going to increase the functionality of my product as well as the satisfaction. And something akin to this would be the battery life in a Tesla, right? So the more battery life that your Tesla actually gets, the more satisfied your user is going to be with the experience of using the car, right? So maybe your engine increasing in capacity, making a more powerful car isn't going to be making it more attractive, but the efficiency of the engine will, right? Because you spend less money on gas, and you also boast about it to your friends because it's more environmentally sound. It's also going to get you further, literally get you further in the car. So those are the 3 features that we think about, right? So the must-be features in order for your product to even work substantially, right? The attractive features, which is the icing on the cake, or the performance features, which is the perfect combination of X and Y. So that's pretty much it for this week. Before I hand it over to you guys to run through the research, a cute little quote that I thought about this week is, it used to be that branding is everything, but today everything is an opportunity for branding, right? So it used to be that in advertising, if you had a funny logo, if you had a funny icon, right, like Chester the Tiger for Cheetos, you could sell an audience on anything, get them to love your brand. But today, we're all distracted. There are more digital touch points than ever. So really, the point is you aren't advertising to a standing army, you're advertising to a moving parade. So how do you capture someone's attention is by really understanding the human tension and solving for that, which is why I had you guys go through the research phase, and you're going to do another version of it this week. Cool. So that was a lot of words. Any questions for myself or Travis before we kick it over to you guys to present some research? I'm going to take that silence as a no. So in that case, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Group 1, you're up.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, they do.
Hello, guys.
That's CJ.
Yeah, I was here. I was just muted because my internet is crapping out really bad. So we're group 1, right?
Yes.
All
I
right.
guess so.
So we have kind of like a joint document that everybody, we chose the 4C, I guess, model. And because it was 4 of us, we kind of developed each one of those C's, right? So I've been, I guess, voluntold to speak for the group, so I will. So to start, we're going to start with the strengths of the brand, and strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? So the strengths of the brand are very simple for us. We think it's the incredible multi-channel approach, which when we get to the channel, I guess, to the client, we can expand on the philosophy of that, because that multi-channel approach is more than just a strategy for them. And the robust focus on product design and development. They are a very, very research-oriented brand from its very beginnings. And I guess we'll get to that when we get to the client part. So multi-channel approach, all the channels you can possibly imagine. So retail stores, showrooms, e-commerce, websites. They're developing apps. They just bought Mirror. This is why we're here. In terms of covering, sort of reach, 440 stores, 14 countries, 285 in the US, 64 in Canada. So a lot of North American presence, 29 in Australia, 7 in New Zealand. I mean, tiny island, 7 there, 12 in the UK, 22 in China, which is going to be crucial for their growth when we get into the strategy a little later. And I don't know, 3 in Singapore, 4 in South Korea, I don't know, a bunch of stores everywhere. They also have Sweden, France, Switzerland, Ireland, and they're going to expand into the European, Middle Eastern, African markets. So they mostly operate in retail stores primarily in street locations, and that double as live centers or inside live centers and in malls. They also reach customers through e-commerce. They work under, around the world, they work under this brand called, I guess they have a different name to handle the different stores, which is iViva or eViva. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I wasn't until we did this research. So that multi-channel approach where they're face-to-face with you, and they're also digitally with you, and part of the philosophy of accompanying you through life, which we'll explain a little later, gives them this omnipresence in their customers' lives. So we think that's a very, very big differentiation factor and a strength for Lululemon. Also, the focus on design and development. Without going into detail, since their very beginning, they have projected trends and hopped on those trends, literally created this new leisure wear or athleisure movement, even though when we get to the client, you'll see that they do not identify with that term. They do all kinds of research out of Vancouver, Canada. They have an entire lab dedicated for this. It's called Whitespace. And they test everything from any kind of performance issues or performance facts, shrinkage, piling, color fastness, abrasion resistance, wicking, moisture, what have you. And that research and that data-focused mentality is what has kept them growing. Also is what gives them that innovative research advantage, and has been a key factor in their revenue growth, because they don't put out just one type of product. We will see when we get into their philosophy and I guess define the client, that they cater to individual needs, not to masses. So weaknesses: overdependence on the U.S. or North American market. So in 2019, the company generated 71.9% of its revenue from the U.S. alone. That's not even counting Canada. So that overdependence on the U.S. market could affect the company's operational, financial performance, what have you, by exposing it to economic and geopolitical risks associated with the country or any downturn in any geographical downturn. Opportunities, though, positive outlook on global e-retail market or digital in general, and growth through the power of 3 strategic plan. Let's elaborate on that. So the company has introduced a new strategic plan for April 2019, in April 2019, and it's a 5-year plan, so 19 until 23, which focuses on expanding business and generating revenue growth. It will have presence in key markets worldwide. I think I mentioned the European and Asian and African markets as well. They are so the main focus is presence in key markets worldwide, create integrated omni guest experiences, and that word guest is really important for Lululemon. They don't call their customers customers; they call them guests because they're an experiential customer brand, and we'll get to that a little later. They will have dynamic new store formats, and they have them now, but they're expanding on that. Even more events, and they have an innovative membership program, different from all the others, which foster connections amongst guests, creates community, etc. Right? Hold on, I'm trying to see in the document. Okay, so in terms of retail or online retail, I guess very oriented towards Mirror. They have really, really big plans. One second, I just missed it. So changing lifestyles due to rising income levels, rising internet penetration, user-friendly interface of web portals have driven their growth. But they're going to put a lot more money and a lot more intention into this. Again, also normal things like discounts, offers, changing how the consumer patterns of purchasing. Mirror will be key in that. I think we don't have to explain it, but we will a little later. But in terms of numbers, they want to achieve, they want to double their digital revenue in the US by 2023. And that's a huge goal. So let's talk about threats. Huge influx of counterfeit products in the market. It's way bigger than we thought when we looked into this. Dependence on third-party suppliers and manufacturers. We think it's a terrible threat to them. And competitive pressures. So huge influx on counterfeit products. We're talking that market is $500 billion a year, which accounts to 2.5% of global imports. So it's huge. But by 2026, so 8 years or 7 years from now, the counterfeited products market is estimated to exceed 2 trillion. So it's just going to keep growing, and the more people want Lululemon, the more counterfeit Lululemon stuff will be available, right? So this damages the I guess the trust that people will have on the brand on the long term. So dependence on third-party suppliers or manufacturers to provide fabrics and to produce the products makes them have little control over the quality of the products. So in 2019, approximately 60% of the company's products were produced by its top 5 manufacturing suppliers. And then we broke it down. I'm not going to go into that, but we broke it down into raw materials and where were they produced. 58% were produced in Southeast Asia, for example. So not depending on just 5 producers or manufacturers, it would really benefit them. We think it's a threat to them. And the company's reliance on third-party suppliers makes it difficult to ensure the quality of goods sold, right? And okay, so I'm changing categories now. So let's go to the 4 C's. Are you guys with me? Because I have a document in front and I'm not looking at you guys at all.
Same.
I'm with you. CJ. I love it.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, if you guys are comfortable with it, I'd
Yeah.
love for you to share your screen too, because I think
Sure.
I think that would be useful.
Sure. Awesome. 1 second. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so now we're at the 4 C's. So yeah, I didn't share it because it's like a Word document, but anyway. So 4 C's: competition, incredibly competitive market. I mean, think about another competitive market. There's nothing like the athletic market, and you have giants like Nike and Under Armour and stuff like that. However, we have an advantage in terms of the philosophy. I work there. That's funny. I just gave myself a job. The company competes with retailers specifically focused on women's athletic apparel, including The Gap and VF Corporation. Obviously, it competes with Nike and Under Armour and things like that. I'm not going to go into detail with that. Many of its competitors are large apparel and sporting goods companies with strong worldwide brand recognition. They have large customer bases, more established relationship than them because they've been around for longer, have even more providers, etc. So OB Fitness has seen a big increase in membership as a result of the coronavirus outbreak, while sales of the Mirror interactive fitness system have doubled, and Peloton has seen increasing demand for their exercise bike classes. Within this whole this whole category of fitness or sports brands, there's definitely a differentiation factor that Lululemon has taken onto them by purchasing Mirror because of the current situation. I guess they didn't foresee COVID, but now that gyms are closing down, Lululemon is going to lead the gym membership thing if you can get it, the category, if you can get it in people's house, right? In people's houses. So is this a breakdown? Michael, hello.
Hey,
Michael.
I am here.
Hey, is this
Yeah.
are
so
we defining these two brands?
Yeah, it's just research on the two brands that are competitors to the Mirror. I don't think we need to get into that.
Right.
But we could, fast forward to culture.
Right. That's what I was going to do. So basically, these two brands, I guess what we did here is that Mirror and Peloton are the only two brands alike in that category of like, I guess, device streaming home fitness thing, and I guess we'll see in the culture and stuff why Mirror makes more sense. So culture, these are more bullet points. So people are realizing that gyms are not necessary. People are getting more comfortable with the idea of working out at home and embracing a fitness lifestyle. The pandemic has interrupted everyone's regular routine, so you can't even go to the gym anymore, even if you were into that lifestyle. People are trying new workouts, diets, streaming classes, tutorials, whatever. People feel more comfortable taking virtual classes from the comfort of their own home and are not intimidated by other people in the gym. Brands are invested in developing custom tech so they don't have to depend on third parties like Zoom. More people are trying fitness apps than ever before. People are gravitating towards meditation, mindfulness, a more holistic lifestyle. We are all overworked and overstressed. A quarter of people are willing to invest in big ticket items. That's true. A quarter, and I love this. Add something about the group team culture. Also, there's personalization tip with the one-on-one coaching. Awesome. So culture research.
You don't have to actually go into the rest of that, by the way,
Okay.
CJ. Because that's just like findings that I found to come up with those insights that I put on there.
I did the same thing. We all got together and like discussed our findings, but everybody's findings are full of data. We like went completely overboard. So client company, this I could do a little bit more relaxed as I did myself. So first of all, it's Lululemon Athletica. It's not just Lululemon. We feel that it has a different connotation when you put the athletic thing in there, because it does have that path of, we made yoga pants, and it's way more than that. It's performance at every level, and it's athletic for sure. It's not just aesthetic. It started in Vancouver, 1998. So it's a 22-year-old company. Chip Wilson, their CEO, quite a character, but a visionary in terms of trends, did it out of gut feeling, and always kept aware of trends. That philosophy is still present there. That's why they have that research center, and why they spot trends way before, 5 years ahead of their time. They spawned that cultural phenomenon called athleisure. However, CEOs, words themselves, that does not reflect who they are as a brand. At the core, they're an experiential brand, not really a lifestyle brand. And it's easy to see when you think about that guest mentality that they have. They are centered around empowering a community of people living the sweat life. This phrase is very important to them. Sweat life is what they are about, and their customers or guests live this life, right? Their data drives the experience. Every experience they create, from the product to how it smells in the store, comes from data, and to a point where in these labs that they have, they research for what people like and what they don't like. And if some people like sweat on their skin and others don't like sweat on their skin, they literally release two different shirts, one that wicks away moisture and one that doesn't, and create more revenue that way, right? Their philosophy is that their vision defines their brand more accurately as they see themselves. These are words of their CEO. We are igniting a community of people living the sweat life, resonating with a sense of finding balance between mind and body connection, and view life itself as a sport. So the spirit of the sweat life meant the brand is present at all times, accompanying the individual. So to, from, and at the yoga studio. So this isn't a perform while you're working out brand. This is a brand for your life, to, from, and at the yoga studio. That is a crucial difference from all the other sportswear brands. I guess, okay, some highlights very quickly. Customers are called guests, staying true to their experiential nature. Every touch point is designed to be an experience, including the use of the product itself. Customer loyalty is at 92%. I don't think even Apple has that. That is insane. From its beginnings, in 1998 till now, every move the brand makes spawns from an early trend spotting thanks to data-driven focus. While most sportswear companies focus on understanding the physics of human movement, Lululemon is particularly interested in how subjectivity figures into the equation. And something that I was surprised about, and it makes sense, is that they're not stigmatized by being first a women's only brand in the menswear market. Rather, the unaided awareness that was created because of their very, very spot on decisions in the menswear market has given them and us, if we're going to communicate, some room to actually shape the perception in these new markets, because men do not think of Lululemon as a women's brand. However, they don't see it as a men's brand, so we can shape that perception however we want, and I think that's a great opportunity for us. And they do not recognize their customers in a binary fashion like women and men. Men and women, they empower the individual. If they're describing a bra, a sports bra, they will say it's what brings maximum support to the runner. They won't say to the woman that's running. And I think that's great for communication. 3 drivers of success: innovative product, omni-guest experience, which is their own term, and that ever-expanding market. I want to do one last thing, which is the goals. So their goals are huge. So they want to continue exponentially, use that word, exponentially growing their women's category while doubling menswear. That's in the next 5 years, and quadrupling international sales and presence. That's huge. E-commerce alone, doubling North America sales, but they want to reach, by the end of 2023, 50% of their total revenue in outside markets like Europe and China. So I think those are gigantic goals that we need to keep in mind. Mirror. Okay, so smaller research on Mirror. So we had a discussion on this where we said a smart mirror. I personally wrote down smart mirror / home gym / personal training device, but it's not. We realized that it's more of a personal streaming device because they see themselves as a content streaming device or platform. The fact that Lululemon has bought them, we don't know if they're going to keep just being this fitness streaming thing or they're going to branch out into other things. They do have plans of branching out into things like, or had plans of branching out to things like real estate and retail in general. So the price point, $1,500 for the device, very high. This isn't for low class, and also has a monthly fee. And also there's personal training and special events you can purchase, in-app purchases. So about the a summary would be huge opportunity in data collection, a crucial factor for previous and future growth. Apparel will drive sales, but won't be the focus. Experience and community will still be the focus. Monthly fee is a new and important revenue stream that they did not have, at least to this extent. And given the fact that currently they have over 2,000 ambassadors worldwide and growing, and now signing major athletes as well, like NFL athletes. I know nothing about sports. I forgot the guy's name. They also have classes and events and things that they will definitely make money on in-app purchases. So, Pablo, is this, or Brandon, is this yours?
That one's mine. Yeah, I'll jump in and say a couple of things.
Please.
Thank you, CJ, by the way. I appreciate that. You've done a great job. One thing on Lululemon that we learned that I found particularly very interesting is that the CEO is not necessarily selling themselves as a fitness-based company. It's more, from her interviews that she's spoken about, it's more so that she sees the Mirror device as another screen in the house where you would have your tablet, you would have your computer, you would have your TV, and you would have your mirror. So she explained it as a vessel for content. And it's just really interesting because she's already having talks about expanding into healthcare, into real estate, into other areas. And I focused on to get back to the assignment, I focused on the guest profile, the customer profile. And I did Lululemon there, and then under it, I did Mirror, 2 separate cards. But the interesting thing is that, to wrap it up, is that their base is very similar. It's normally 18 to 35-year-olds, millennial and Generation Z. It's normally middle class to upper class, living in the United States, mostly North American cities. They mostly towards the coast, I believe it was actually, and technology savvy. And then they're very much so fitness orientated, where it's a passion for fitness. They want to look good inside the gym. They want to look good outside the gym as far as Lululemon is concerned. And to wrap it up, the most important piece that I found with Mirror that we were trying to figure out, why exactly did Lululemon progress? Did Lululemon do this acquisition? And I found that a great description of the Mirror users were immersive engagers, that they wanted to be fully immersed into this event, right? Into this class. Like, they want to be at home, comfortable, but at the same time, they want to feel the atmosphere of the gym. So it's almost as if, like, they want to work out alone, but they don't want to work out alone either. And I have a bunch more research, but I think we've done a pretty good description and example, and interesting to see what everybody else is doing. Thank you.
Wow.
I'm about to say I can't speak. Like that's how I feel right now after like that was great, y'all.
CJ did all of that. He did all the work. No.
Well, okay, so Trav,
No,
I'm
I
gonna let
didn't.
you start. Actually, I'm gonna let you start, but I want to say one thing. First of all, great job, guys. Seriously, that was so much work that went into this, and it does not go unnoticed. I will say for every group going forward, as much as CJ, I think you did a phenomenal job presenting, and obviously you guys all jumped in. I would love to hear from everyone, right? At the end of the day, a new business pitch is not run by one person. If it is run by one person, I hope it's a one-person agency, right? Because if there's multiple people that did the work, multiple people at the table, you want to hear from everybody. And I think everyone's got their expertise. And notwithstanding, right? Like literally in an agency setting, the account director is going to have an expertise that the strategy person doesn't have. The creative person is going to have expertise that the producer doesn't have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you know what? It's great to hear from one person sometimes, but for these exercises, definitely want to hear from everybody, especially if you did your own work. There are just going to be nuanced details that come up when you present your own work. So just moving forward, it's not that you guys did anything wrong. Again, great job. Just for future reference, I would love to be able to hear from everyone. It's also a good way for myself and Trav to get to know you guys as well. Your presenting styles, that's going to help as well. You know, when we're going through these exercises, it's not just about the work, it's also about how you present it too, right? A lot of pitching is about pitch theater, right? So if everyone comes in with the best work ever, but then they speak like this and there's no intonation flexing and it sounds kind of like a robot. No, but you're not going to sell work, right? Like nobody's going to be convinced. So that's something that we're going to work on as well. Anyway, Trav, I'm going to let you kick it off. What do you have?
Yeah, so a couple of great things just overall that I noticed. One was just the delivery. CJ did a great job, and to Eric's point, like I definitely love to hear from everyone in the group just to kind of learn more about how you present, what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I think one of the great things you guys didn't skimp on at all was doing the work. Like I have no idea how long it took to gather and compile all of that data and that information, but I'd say you guys definitely did a great job on that front. I think you also did a great job at looking inside really deep into Lululemon. So going as far as to looking at the strategic plans is something that I always recommend and think about. And as you kind of start to set a foundation for what everyone else kind of does moving forward, I think it's also great to think about what information is available right now on the internet, right? Like you went and found a strategic plan, you went and found these interviews, right? So just opening people up to the things that are literally available on the internet, I think is just great. And then the other piece, because I don't want to just be all like, hey, you guys did a great job. Like the other piece I'd say is a little bit, I kind of wish you guys went a little bit deeper on Mirror, and I totally understand that there's not enough research out there because obviously it's a new company, it's a completely new market. So I would have just loved to have seen a little bit more details on Mirror, and hopefully I'm excited to kind of see what the next stage of your research looks like. But yeah, overall, like I'd say great job, and I'd just like to see a little bit more on Mirror and also hear from more people on the team. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Hey, what's up, Travis? Mike here.
Hey.
If you can, CJ, if you scroll up to highlight. We did do research on Mirror and the acquisition. I think that we were just a little bit confused in terms of where we should focus our, not those highlights, a little bit.
Which one? Oh, up here? Okay, sorry. Highlights here, right?
So we went into like the cost, the reasons why Mirror was acquired, the benefits, the cost benefits analysis, the fact that 50% of Mirror's customers overlap with Lululemon. So we have all those details. I think, you know, how we organized it, we were trying to focus on SWOT analysis and then the 4 C's. But if we wanted to get deeper into the conversation, we could, especially around why Lululemon was looking into the acquisition. We also found out that Lululemon had done sort of like a survey into Lululemon by partnering with their ambassadors and deploying them with their products in marketing and design. So, but we would, if we given the chance and if we wanted to go further, we could do that.
Oh no, good. No, I love that, and I love that you also had the stuff literally in the document to say like, hey, look, research is right here. And well, no, because it just seemed like it was very much Lululemon dominated, and then we got like Mirror in that last couple of minutes. But overall, like again, that was just something I noticed, and I think to your point, it's definitely it's great to see, and wanting to think about ways to just bring that in together. And this is something on Eric and I too. I met with another group, and I think because there was some confusion around health and fitness and which kind of market should we be doing this for, right? And so I definitely want to make sure if there's any similar questions after this class, we can clear that up and give everyone more solid instructions about kind of like what the next thing to do is. At least was the feedback that I got. So please let us know if and how we could be more clear. Just because again, we want to make sure this is productive and everyone's getting the most out of this. And I'd love for people to say, hey, no, like this does not make any sense. Like no shyness here.
100%. Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here. Guys, the reason why this first week was so open-ended, and I know it's open-ended, right? There's not even a brief to work off of, right? So the reason why it is kind of like a big question mark is because I was more curious about the ways that you guys would pull information. The kinds of information that you would pull tells me a lot about which direction you want to head in. Some things that I'll start off with a positive, right? I think that's always good. You guys brought a lot to the table that I was not expecting. First of all, identifying the problem of counterfeit, right? That is a huge reason why a lot of brands have pulled themselves off of Amazon specifically, right? Nike, for a long, long time, Nike has said, no, we're never going to sell on Amazon. Counterfeits being one of the problems, another being dilution of brand, right? Then they finally sold on Amazon for a hot second, and they immediately pulled everything off because Amazon wasn't able to help them fix the counterfeit issue. This is a real retail problem that a lot of brands are facing right now, right? And another way of looking at counterfeit as an issue is this whole explosion of direct-to-consumer, right? And I'm not saying that direct-to-consumer means that they're counterfeits, but what does it mean when you walk into a Target or Walmart and you see the retail brand soaps, right, sat right next to a Tide or a Glade or a giant P&G or Unilever brand, right? These Doves of the world or Axe or Old Spice, right? These name brands we know and love, and then to see that Walmart or Target or Best Buy or whatever has their own brand, right? That's not a counterfeit, but it's definitely muddying the waters. It's making consumers confused. It's a lower price point product that sells itself of having the same ingredients, if not better, than the original big brands. And it's saying, well, now you have to choose. Same thing here, right? And you've mentioned it, right? There's Nike, there's Adidas, there's Reebok, there's all these other players in the market. And so consumers are overwhelmed. And we know that consumers don't want to have too many choices. They actually want fewer choices, not more. And so when they're faced with everything, they say, well, why Lululemon? Something that you brought out that was really important in understanding is that Lululemon, like Apple, like Nike, like Johnson & Johnson, is an ecosystem. And the way that they're an ecosystem is that they show up along every single touch point in a user journey, in a customer journey, right? So figuring out that, if we don't have stores anymore, if we don't have live experiences, we need to be in every athlete's home, right? If our whole, and you called this out, if life is a sport, to, from, and at the yoga studio, how do we actually carry out that promise when there's no yoga studio at all? When there's no to, there's no from, there's no at. You're just at home. That's it. Plain and simple. How do we carry on that brand mission, right? We do that by giving you a product like Mirror. So you have a third screen in your home that allows us to unlock your creative and athletic potential regardless of where you are. So if you want to feel sweaty or not sweaty, you have the apparel to do it, and you have the mechanism of getting the training you need. plain and simple, right? What I'm missing here, and I was not expecting this, so it's not really technically missing it, but to take this from week 1 to week 2, what I need you guys to do is take all this rigor that you've put through and figure out a story, a cohesive story to put all this research through, to communicate to me, not only did you do the research, the work of figuring out what does this Mirror and Lululemon collaboration and merger mean, but what problem are you trying to solve? And that's going to be really interesting, is figuring out, you've identified a whole myriad of threats, weaknesses, and opportunities. So then figure out the one story that you're trying to solve for, right? And this is going to take a lot of collaboration between the 3 or 4 of you, right? Which is thinking about, do you want to solve for this idea of a post-COVID athletic landscape? Do you want to solve for this idea of not having retail locations, but still expanding beyond just an American market? Do you want to tackle this idea of counterfeit products or too many products in a market space and cutting through the clutter, right? There are a lot of different problems that you've identified. Pick one, use all the research that you have, and just keep pointing at it. The idea is that right now, you're pitching Lululemon on literally anything you want. Lululemon does not have an open RFP to solve for. They don't even know what to do with Mirror yet, right? They're probably scrambling internally to figure out, what does this mean for us? If you can be an agency of 4 and come in and say, listen, we're not going to solve everything for you, but we want to solve this one thing, and we know what we're worth, and we know how we're going to do it. Here's how much you have to pay us. What is that problem you're solving for? And that's what's going to take us from week 1 to week 2. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
very much so. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'll stop sharing the screen, right? Can I stop
You can
sharing
if you
the
want. I mean, it's up to you. Yeah, please, yes.
Yeah.
A few things that actually are specific in your research that I want to call out, right? So let me just read back in my notes here. So I love that you called out the different markets. And I think one thing that you're going to have to do when you're figuring out this pitch process is, which market are you actually going to go after, right? Because there are global AOR agencies, massive agencies that are going to work across everything, or there are going to be specialized agencies that are going to help this brand build out in specific markets. How are you going to roll it out, right? So, and I'm not asking you to, I am asking you to pick, right? So pick a key market and go after it, right? If you want to say, I want to work in EMEA, so Europe, the Middle East, feel free to do that. If you want to go after Asia Pacific, go do that. If you want to go after North America, go do that, right? For myself, if I were doing this project, right, I would go after North America because that's the market I'm most familiar with. But if that's not the case for you guys, fuck it, go with something else, right? Another thing that you have to think through is, if you're talking about all these different ecosystems, right? Retail, apps, studios, the Mirror now, figuring out, do you want to go through a communications approach? If that's the real strength you've identified, which is Lululemon and Mirror shows up everywhere that the consumer shows up, maybe what you're inching towards is a communications and ecosystems approach to a new business pitch, right? Maybe not a traditional advertising approach, but a service design approach, or again, communication planning. Just another thing to think about, right? So always keep your goal in mind, which is, am I going after a brand experience? Am I going after a comms experience? Am I doing a retail experience? Or am I doing a product development kind of exercise, right? So really think about that. And then the next thing I would think about is, why is multi-channel good for Lululemon, right? And when I say that, I mean omni guest experience, right? Does a brand need to do that, right? Lululemon's chosen to do that. They've chosen to show up at every touch point along the customer journey, right? But how does that actually benefit them, right? Because if I spun it around and I said, well, now we're going to work on Old Spice, right? Deodorant. Does that product, or is that brand something that actually needs to live along the customer continuum, right? Do I need to be top of mind when you're at work? Do I need to be top of mind when you're in the shower? Do I need to be top of mind when you're on a date, right? Maybe not, right? Lululemon's idea is, yes, I do need to be part of the full ecosystem, right? Because it's to, from, and at the yoga studio. So how does it carry out that vision? One thing that was missing for me in that lens was the whole boom of something like ClassPass. You just skimmed over it, right? You talked about physical gyms like Gold and 24 Hour Fitness, and they're going out of business because of COVID-19. That's great. Then you talked about virtual workouts, right? So 305 Fitness is big. Peloton is huge, obviously, right? There are a myriad of other services that do that. But somewhere in between were all the different services that were trying to aggregate different fitness experiences and offer it to a bored or discovery consumer, right? And what I mean by that is the modern fitness junkie is unsure of where they belong. It used to be that, oh, I'm a cyclist, so I love everything about cycling. Or I'm a tennis player, so I have tennis shoes and I live the tennis life cycle, right? Or I'm really into American soccer, which is the rest of the world would call football, right? So everything I do is about football. Today, the modern gym goer, the modern exercise junkie does it all. They care about skincare. They care about the sports they watch on TV, and that influences the clothes they buy on a first date, on the first day of school, on the first day of work. But then they also practice other stuff like high-intensity interval training, right? Then they'll also go and swim, and they'll also go on a bike, right? What does this mean for Lululemon, right? In an age of ClassPass, which is what I think is one of the major defining factors of the fitness space in 2020, now that ClassPass can't exist because we can't go to a physical gym. What does the indecision about what sport defines you mean for Lululemon? And I want you guys to really dig deeply on this, because I think this will take you down a road of getting to an insight, not just rote research. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really it. So I guess, for next week, really figure out what is your narrative, what is a point you're trying to draw, and really communicate it through a way of not only showing your research, but actually putting together some kind of story arc that begins to point us towards what are your ideas going to be? What is your solution for the problem you've identified? Really, if you show up and all you have is like, here's the big problem, and here's how we're going to take you from the get to buy model, that would be good enough. Think through how you're going to flush that out. But overall, great job.
Yeah. And also
Trav,
I was going to say one thing to add is consider all three of your collective strengths. And actually 3 or 4, I forget if you're group of 4. Okay, 4. So consider all 4 of your collective strengths and kind of like what your quote unquote superpowers are, and make sure you throw that into the mix, right? Like maybe one of you is a more experiential and events focused person, and that's what your background is used to creating and developing. And then maybe someone's a more product driven engineer thinker, right? Like maybe that's how you think. And so thinking about how you can just combine your collective skills and lanes together also as well for every group here. Think about how to bring your personalities to the table, and just let them shine, right? Like this is a opportunity for you all to be creative, to potentially test things out. For some of you that have your own agencies, think about those product pitches that you want to be a little bit more experiential with and experimental with, and kind of use this as a place to kind of test some ideas, because hopefully some of this stuff you can literally just take from your presentations and then potentially present to any client that's in the health and wellness space, or any sort of potential client for you in the future. So I just want to make this as useful as possible and let everybody think about leaning into who they are a lot here.
Exactly. Awesome. And with that, we have 50 minutes left. So I believe there are 2 more groups, right? There are 3 groups in total. Is that true? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So I want to give everyone at least 20 minutes to go. Well, 20 minutes to go through, and then 5-10 minutes per group for feedback. So group 2, you're up. Let's kick it off and let's breeze through so we can make sure you guys get the right feedback.
All right. Okay, let me pull it up real quick. I think we're gonna split it up in terms of like each person's gonna present their own piece, but
Oh, good.
I haven't gotten confirmation yet. But
Yeah. Can you actually just share the screen the entire time so we don't have to go back and forth?
Yep.
between all of us?
that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Sweet.
Grab this preview, share. All right. So let me go.
Oh, beautiful, guys.
Enter full screen. All right, here we go. All right, so George did this amazing work on the presentation. So it is a combination of obviously the research that we all put together. We spent quite a bit of time on it, and I'm gonna let George kick it off with his portion on the culture.
Okay, so
Thanks for that introduction, Rod. I was in charge of the cultural part of the research. We're going to see, when we see the company section, we're going to see a little bit of research on Lululemon. But since this is something that affects both brands, we looked at the culture from a general point, okay? So first, a few things that we found out. We did a couple of things. We researched the web, of course. We also did a kind of a small survey so that we could ask fitness enthusiasts what they thought about the product, where they thought that the future was going. And we had a little bit of an idea of how things are looking for both Mirror and Lululemon. So the first thing that we found out is the fitness is social, okay? So factors like competition, motivation, community, and discipline are big drivers for people that are within the fitness community. And so these guys actually prefer gym because it provides all of that. So that being said, Mirror will have a big challenge to overcome, and it's probably going to have to depend on technology to overcome that and probably build a community and a whole sense of, belonging that is within the Mirror community, okay? Also, that makes me question if there's an opportunity for maybe incorporate this into gyms so that people can have like group classes or something, okay? Also, moving on to point number 2, there's definitely a tech boom going on in the wellness industry, from wearables to apps to VR gyms to interconnected equipment. There's a bunch of things going on, and people are driving that growth because they're willing to try everything out, okay? Now, right now, there's a big market for everything. And so I think what that means for Mirror and Lululemon is that they're going to have to be very competitive and they're going to have to be very aggressive if they don't want to fall behind. Because, for instance, they don't necessarily have the whole experience, okay? Their Mirror is just one part of the thing, but then you have to get some other things that other competitors already provide you, okay? That being said, the biggest things that are going on in the fitness or wellness industry fall in through 3 main categories, which is experiencing the gym in new ways, performance improvement, and marketplaces. Then the third thing, which I think is very big for Mirror and Lululemon, is that with Mirror, they're actually bridging the gym and home, okay? Pretty much from that survey that we ran, we found out that 12 out of 14 people will actually be willing to try Mirror out, but 50% of them claim that they will only use it as a complement. They will not leave their gym membership. They will actually use it when they don't have the time to necessarily go to the gym, or maybe because they're tired of the same routine and they want to try something different. Maybe I don't have a whole hour or 2 hours to work out today. I just have 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So doing that right from home will provide very useful. So in overall, in terms of culture, we think that Mirror definitely has a huge potential, but of course it also comes with a lot of risk from competitors actually, running a little bit in a faster pace, okay? So that's all for my part.
Awesome. Let me go to the next one. Consumer.
So it's okay. I was in charge of the consumer. Sometimes my English doesn't look so fine, so have me patient. But I'm going to try my best. I found these things about consumer, and we focus on US market, and we are going to include men and women in the communication, but we want to focus on women. So women are like most likely to report being dissatisfied with how their body looks. I found a study that say that 83% of women being dissatisfied with how their body looks. This make them want to exercise. However, 64.9% of women avoid going to the gym because it causes them anxiety, which makes them more likely to drop out compared to men. their biggest influence, we thought are the social network, but no. Are not social network, but mirrors, which remind them every day that they don't have the body they want. And the fun fact is this equip is a mirror. So it was so funny for me. Their consumer truth is they have a big desire to lose belly fat to earn more body confidence. They want to find a perfect healthy life formula, less expensive and sustainable. Why they stop working out? They consider very expensive, feel tired, and don't have enough time. That's are like the excuses the women have. I don't have time. Health is very expensive, and that's it. And the key consumer idea, they are looking for healthy life that fits their lifestyle, not the opposite. They don't want like their life, that they have to fit their lifestyle to healthy life. And that's it.
Awesome. Category.
All right, so category, my turn. After doing some research and getting hit up with a million ads, I feel like I narrowed down what I believe their main competitors to be: Tempo, Peloton, SoulCycle, and Tonal. And then to really break it down from there, Tempo and Tonal are more for strength and resistance training, which is something that if you're looking to do weights and you're looking for more than indoor cycling and essentially what Peloton and SoulCycle are, these would be the closest choices to the Mirror. After reviewing their capabilities, I felt Peloton and SoulCycle are a great supplement. Like I wouldn't necessarily call them direct competitors, only because of the price, right? Because are you either going to spend $1,500 here, $1,900 there, $2,500 here? So in terms of price, it's just the overall workout. They're all pretty much unique, except for Peloton and SoulCycle. So what I gathered so far is the pandemic has accelerated the trend of working out at home. It made it okay. It made it a little bit more normal. You're a little bit more used to working out at home because you literally didn't have a choice for about a month at least. So while it accelerated the trend, we also saw that 40% of people are doing virtual workouts with studios they've never even stepped foot in. So you can have a personal trainer or a studio in California. You're in Miami, and you would still be doing those workouts. So it kind of opened it up instead of a physical first to a more digital first thought process. Then what I really quickly realized is that all of these were completely out of stock. The demand, obviously, for the home fitness products was outpacing supply, and there was already an uptick in Q1, and we'll see that down below. But there was already an uptick, but the pandemic really did, kickstart and kept it going. And then furthermore, past the accelerated trend of working out at home is home gyms are really the future of fitness. As someone mentioned before, Planet Fitness saw a net income decline of 67% in the first quarter, which is terrible. They also got into some trouble by charging people, which was, I don't know how their logistics work, but I thought that was kind of foul. 24 Hour Fitness and Gold's Gym were already going into bankruptcy, so it's not really pandemic based. Nautilus, which they're actually the parent company for Bowflex, which I'm sure we've been hearing for like 20 years. This was the first quarter, Q1 of this year was the first quarter that they actually reversed a decline of sales, and they actually increased it 11%, which is amazing. And then obviously Peloton, their sales surged 66% last quarter compared to a year ago, which is amazing. But their secret sauce is really the 886,000 subscribers that they currently have, which is more of that community feel that nobody else can touch. And just for reference, Mirror has tens of thousands of subscribers. So just based off that, it feels like this is the next step. Like working out at home is the next step. But from what we can see, there isn't at least one machine or one solution. There are several that you still have to choose from and maybe supplement.
Awesome. All right. So the last portion is about the company. Just did some research on Lululemon as well as Mirror. When we found out that Lululemon was a very early investor into Mirror itself, they focused really developing on high-end, obviously we call it athleisure wear, or everybody calls it athleisure wear. And since the beginning of the year, their stock has increased 27%. It was founded back in 1998, as mentioned before, and has, at the time when I read the article, it had 800 million in cash reserves. Then to bring them together, we looked at things like where Lululemon is currently manufacturing. Around 67% of their manufacturing comes from China, from Asia, around 23% from China, and they do keep 3% of manufacturing here in the U.S. in order to be able to test and send out their products quickly to market. And then Mirror was founded in 2016, relatively new. They develop software and manufacture a hardware to bring studio-like fitness programs at home. And then some expectations over the next few years. Mirror is expected to bring in over 100 million in revenue in 2020 and is expected to turn a profit in 2021. Mirror also will operate as an independent subsidiary of Lululemon Athletica. The Mirror CEO will work directly under the Lululemon CEO. And after speaking with Travis as well, he shed some insight into their hiring over the next few months. They're hiring a VP of marketing in the New York office as well. And we also found out that Mirror is manufactured in Mexico currently. So that's it for company, and that's our 4 C's. Mirror, Lululemon. Thank you.
First of all, guys, beautifully designed. Whoever came up with that template, I'm stealing it.
George.
Great job, George.
Go ahead.
I mean, the man's never lost a pitch, right? Like
I was gonna say,
back out here.
Oh, there you go. Maybe you could pitch them to become their new VP of marketing.
Let's go.
Guys, this is great. This is great. Can we start from the beginning? I just want to see the first. I believe it was culture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this breakdown is, and this is why I don't want to say all, but most strategists usually start with the 4 C's, right? It just brings so much clarity to the research process. Baking in insights in a way that's very methodical, very process driven. Same feedback as I'm sure every group, right? And I think you guys did exactly what was necessary, which is do the research in a way that is going to eventually get you to a place where you can start ideating. I think, before we get to like what's missing, I think the way that you guys approach this is very, very it's very standard, but it's also analytical, right? You guys did exactly what was needed in order to figure out, where's Lululemon at right now, and then what has happened to Lululemon since the acquisition of Mirror and where they headed. I think it's where are they headed that I'm sort of missing, right? And that's not going to come out of the research alone. It's kind of like you have to think about it a little bit. In terms of culture, what I'm seeing here is sort of, you're saying fitness is social, and it is 100%, right? Obviously, the idea of Mirror is that, fitness doesn't have to be social. It can, right? Fitness maintains the social aspect, because of COVID-19 by implementing something like Mirror. I think that's a key differentiator right there, is if fitness is social, which it is not for every single person, right? Because in the next slide in consumer, you literally say there's a whole chunk of the female market, which is, by the way, a huge market for Lululemon, right? And presumably Mirror. There's a huge chunk of women that will not go to the gym because of all the anxieties that they feel of going to the gym, right? It could be body dysmorphia. It could be feeling like they're being harassed at the gym, or it could feel like they just don't want to sweat in front of other people. It could be a myriad of reasons, right? And if that's true, then fitness is not always inherently social. Sport is social. Fitness, maybe not. So I'm not quite convinced here strategically. Wellness tech boom. Spot on. Like I couldn't have said it better myself, right? So this column is just plain old right? And one thing that I would challenge us to think through is, sure, wellness is obviously, wellness tech, health tech, fit tech, athletic tech. These are all things that are obviously going to continue to grow because of COVID, and it was always growing anyway, right? The advent of Apple Watch, we see Jawbone, we see Fitbit, all these different tech companies developing their own solutions. Sure, specifically for Lululemon now, what does this mean in terms of building into their retail ecosystem, providing this kind of service for their pre-existing consumers and then also their new consumers, right? What is the implication here? The functional, the personal, and the communal implication. And then bridging gym at home. I think this is great. First of all, I love that you guys went out and interviewed people. I think that really helps qualify a lot of claims that you're putting forth. And I think that's one of, and Trav, I see you're nodding your head, when you think of community strategy, if you're building out a community program for Lululemon, literally the first step is to actually just go and talk to that community. So I think that's spot on what you guys did there, right? And what you said there, 50% claim they would buy Mirror to complement their fitness experience. I think right then and there is your problem. Right. And I don't want to define your problem for you to solve in the next few weeks, but I'm just saying that right there is going to be a huge misstep if they don't address that in certain ways. Right. Because I think what they try to do, what any brand tries to do, is when they put out a product, they want that to be the end all be all. They don't want you to migrate to other brands to complement their product with, right? That is what you would discover as a strategist to kind of solve for. So the last group said, Lululemon does well because it's an omni-channel experience. It exists in every touch point along consumer journey. If this statement is true, if 50% of consumers for Mirror say that they wouldn't replace their entire fitness routine with the Mirror, this opens up the opportunity for that same consumer to go to another brand for that experience. So how do you solve for that, right? Can we go to the next slide? And I think building on that idea of, finding gaps and opportunities to tackle, right? I love this slide. I actually think, some of the points you bring up here already opens my mind up to a lot of problems to solve for, right? So women are dissatisfied with their bodies. We know this, right? Men are dissatisfied with their bodies too. But if you're going to pick women as consumer, which I'm fine with, I was a little surprised that this was so focused already. But you know what? I'm buying it, because if you're talking about Lululemon, which is a predominantly female market to begin with, and then you're talking about how Mirror goes into that experience, I think you did a good enough job of qualifying why you only talked about women in the slide. But just make sure as you're going through this exercise for the next 4 weeks, women are going to be your core target, right? So if you're pitching Lululemon right now, you're basically telling me as a client that I'm only going after women, right? Meaning, you don't think that only women are important as a consumer, but as an agency, all you're tackling right now as a piece of business is going after the women consumer. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that before you go down the rabbit hole, right? So, and again, that's totally fine, because this project is based on what you guys want to work on, not so much an actual RFP. So that aside, women are dissatisfied with their bodies, but feel anxious about going to the gym. That right there is a huge insight. That gives you creative legs to build out a whole campaign already. But the next thing you said is what really sold me in, which is they want a solution that fits their lifestyle, not obstructed. Sure, I think that's true for everyone. But mirrors as an object in the home are twice as likely twice as likely, more so than social media, to actually remind them that they are dissatisfied with their bodies. That right there is such a hot take. I don't know how you found those stats, but the fact that you did, please source them, because I want to believe you. I just want to know where you found that out, right? That statistic could come from anywhere. This is just an
I
exercise.
found on Ipsos, these sources. Ipsos, I don't know English. Ipsos.
Oh, like the giant retailer online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In español, we could just say it in English if we need to.
Ipsos.
Yeah.
Ipsos, la empresa de investigación, sí. Igual voy a
Regardless, I believe you. I believe that it was from a credible source. Under normal circumstances, a client would want to see it come from a place like, for example, like a Wall Street Journal or Fortune or whatever. But for this exercise, totally believe you, right? The point being, right there, those two statements, right? Women are dissatisfied with their bodies, but they feel anxious about going to the gym. But the mirror is actually an object that reminds them often how dissatisfied they truly are with their bodies. Right then and there, that tells you a lot, that there's a cultural and human tension, right? Lululemon says, we want you to feel good no matter what you're doing, because you're always going to be active. You're always an athlete. You're always turned on, right? And that's how you're going to live a better, healthier life, right? It's from it at the studio, right? And then translate that to the clothes you wear, to the experiences you have with fitness, bringing it to the home. What they don't want to do is bring you anxiety and self-consciousness to the home front as well. That's exactly what they don't want to, oh, thanks for the link. That's what they don't want to do, right? So right now you have this really interesting problem to solve for, which is Lululemon says, we want to be part of your entire fitness journey. We want to help you get to your fitness goals. Mirror allows you to do that at home, but Mirror makes you feel bad about it because mirrors remind you that you're dissatisfied. So how are you going to change that perception? Is it through communication? Is it through content? Is it through a service you provide through the mirror? What does that look like, right? My goal is I don't want to shape the work that you're going to come out of this with, but I'm just saying you right there have identified a huge business opportunity. And if you want to drill down on the women demographic or female demographic, I would encourage you to do so, because you have a lot of legs to start that thinking. Does that kind of make sense? That's a very brand strategy specific approach.
It does.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So again, next week.
Go ahead.
Please.
No, go ahead, Eric. Finish up, then I'll add a couple things.
So I think for next week, again, I want to see this get translated into some sort of story arc, right? Begin to come up with really framing, here's the problem, here's opportunity, and here's our solution, right? And the get to buy model is one of many ways of positioning it. In fact, if everybody comes back with a get to buy model, Trav and I are going to be very bored, right? So you don't have to fill it as a template, but it should start to get the ball rolling in terms of thinking, like, how do I want to format the big opportunity here, the problem we're solving for, and then just fall short of the ideas. That next week, I don't want to see any kind of creative ideas. I just want to see the beginnings of the first 30 pages of a deck, which is not literally, but the beginning of a deck that's saying, we've done the research, we got smart about it, we know what's going on in the world with your company and your competition, and here's the big problem we're going to tackle. If you just end your presentation next week with, here's the big problem we're solving for, that's exactly what I want. That's a lot of words. Trav, I would love for you to jump in here, man.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to highlight a couple of great things for everyone to think about. First, just want to say great job, y'all. This is really great, nice, to the point. And I really love that you just took a model and went with it. Like you just picked, the 4 C's, and you're like, hey, we're starting here. And you all kind of decided and went. And then you all took your individual pieces and then added your flavor to it. So I really, really love that. The other thing that I really love that Eric pointed out earlier too was the fact that you did some actual research on your own. I think that's saying a lot about the initiative amongst your group members. Whoever's idea it was to do that doesn't really matter. Just the fact that you all did it together and like you had some research. I think that's super important in terms of kind of how to start this process. When you're curious, you just kind of start to explore and figure out. So I definitely wanted to highlight that. And another couple of things, like to Eric's point, yes, the get to buy model is just one framework, right? There's the story brand model. There's so many different ways that you can tell the story. But I think the main point is as we start to identify and start to figure out how we ideate and what products and solutions and campaigns that we might think about for the future of kind of what we kind of finish up with, I think it'll be a good way for everyone to kind of think about just how to position and just go through this process. And I'm trying to think of the other things that I loved about this. It gave me a lot of ideas. So I will say something, like when I was listening back to you all kind of go through, I literally kept getting ideas, which normally for me, when I get ideas just by taking notes, that's a good sign that the thoughts are well put together and well delivered. So definitely love that. Similar to the last group, I love that you guys also put a focus on Mirror. I kind of flip-sided it, right? Like last group was a lot of Lululemon focus, and this one was a lot more Mirror focus. So I do love that. And I would love to have seen a little bit more Lululemon in here, but I definitely understand the approach, and that's kind of why I made that same feedback about looking deeper into Mirror. And you guys, I think you did an overall great job. So yeah, I'd say that was most of my feedback, but unless you guys have any other specific questions about anything in general, we could definitely go on to the next group.
It was actually one of the questions that I had for Travis yesterday was figuring out the category, because it's so new, right? There's an overarching one, health and wellness, which is what he had suggested. And there's also at-home fitness equipment, and then it started getting like more specific. And then I started realizing everyone has different words for it. So it's in-home fitness. So it was a matter of figuring out what is that category, so I can figure out the rest of the people in that space. It took a little while, especially because it's newer, but it was a little bit of a process that I felt like I was stumbling in the beginning on.
Yeah, that's very fair, Mike. And I think you did a great job of, kind of laying out the land. I think when it comes to stuff like this, right, because it is tricky, right, we're talking about like in brand strategy 101, right, there's in this scenario, there's like house of brands, which is, I'll talk about the car category because I know automotive really well. House of brands is like BMW, right? Like BMW has Mini Cooper. It has all the different models, right? The X series, the M series, the 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8 series, right? All these numerals, right? It's a house of many individual brands that make up that larger house. But today we actually see the rise of branded houses, right? I'll send a deck for everyone to review after this to kind of go over brand architecture, but a branded house is more like what we're seeing here. Lululemon Athletica, which is Lululemon and Mirror, et cetera, that all belong as Lululemon. A bunch of different offerings, a bunch of different products and services that are all branded the same, right? So that key difference makes it a little trickier to play in the space, but I will say the way that we kind of figure out how to structure a competitive audit is actually, it's kind of up to you, right? In a pitch, you get to format the way that you want to present the competition. So if you come to us and you say, sort of the way that I broke it down earlier in my little presentation, which is your core competitors, which is the ones that are delivering exactly what you do, right? So for Mirror, maybe it's Peloton, right? That would be a direct competitor. And then the next category, the next filter, let's call it, is sort of like the cultural or the categorical competitor. So thinking more broadly now, well, Lululemon and Mirror combined is sort of like health and wellness tech, right? So who else does that? Well, Apple sort of does that because they make a watch and they try to make it look sexy, but it's also very much biometric measuring, right? So that's sort of like then a categorical competitor, right? And then an experiential competitor would be like a Nike that dips its toes into tech, that dips its toes into apparel, that dips its toes into brand sponsorship deals with real athletes, right? So figuring out what's a framework, and maybe their framework doesn't exist, and your job as a strategist or someone as part of a new business pitch team is to come up with a new framework of showing we've done a lot of work in thinking through who your competitors are. We don't know if it's just 1 or 5 or 15, but we know there are a lot of people that are going to eat your lunch if you're not careful. So here's how we're going to show you the process of having done that research and show you the different layers of thinking through the competitive landscape. Does that help clarify the approach?
Cool. And one more thing to add too on the competitive landscape thing. Like, is anyone here familiar with the Blue Ocean strategy?
Same.
Yep.
So, okay. So taking that same approach and realizing that if you're creating a new potential market for someone, think about all the new things that are going to come up, right? Like, you're going to create an uncontested market space. The competition's irrelevant. You're creating and capturing new demand. So like, you're literally creating a space for this new sort of competition to start to arise. And you're not going to have much precedent, but you're going to be doing things that are trailblazing, that are going to create cultural waves that stick with people over time. And you're going to not really be caring about the competition. So if you're coming from that lens and you're saying, okay, we have this athleisure brand that then focused with this content streaming device, like what market is that? Like, is that athleisure streaming? Like, I don't know. I'm just making that up, but just to kind of get you guys to think about, like, if you're creating a new category, what are you calling that? Because now more than ever, categories are being redefined, and people are like, I'm sure people that are in sales and marketing, account-based marketing, that wasn't a thing 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. It was called strategic selling or key account sales, right? It wasn't account-based marketing. But now, if you're a marketer and you don't have an account-based strategy, then you're like, whoa, like, what are you doing, right? So just kind of keep that in mind of like Blue Ocean strategy. If you're creating a new market, just think about how and what you can do to shape these sorts of things with your research and products.
Awesome. Cool. Overall, again, guys, great job. Awesome design. That always helps. A little eye candy goes a long way. And I definitely think, based on the insights, especially in the consumer category, you have a lot to work with. I would love to see, Mike, specifically, I know you led the charge there. Hopefully that feedback helps. And then as you layer on your competitive kind of thought and your thinking, when you guys get to the stage this following week and presenting, setting up the problem, setting up the opportunity, setting up the beginnings of what might be a solution, I think a lot of that is going to be clarified. And of course, please put time on my calendar. I would love to help you guys walk through that process in more detail. But yes, and special shout out, thanks Travis for doing that. Monique, excellent job, especially for a non-native English speaker. I think you did it very, very eloquently. Awesome. And I want to make sure this last group 3 has enough time. So guys, please cue it up. Let's hear it.
Sounds good. We'll start. I'm just going to share my screen.
Sweet.
Is it sharing or no?
I think so.
Okay.
Boom.
Did it work? Okay, so I'll start here and my team will jump in as each part. But what we used as a framework was the Ikigai model. So each one of us could focus on one section. So what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and more importantly, like what you're paid up, what you're paid for, which we found it was an interesting thing for Lululemon plus Mirror, especially that connection of both. So the first thing is just kind of bringing some context into what is happening in the world right now and what has been the impact of COVID-19. So what would happen in a world without stores? And I think this is an even bigger deal when we're talking about Lululemon, because as we've been talking as a team here, and everybody obviously found similar things. We found that, the stores for Lululemon are beyond just a physical location. And what we're seeing is that store really represents a community of people, right? Like the Lululemon fans, and what does that bring in for everyone? And what would happen if that community and that store is gone and it's not something that they can access anymore? What we're seeing is that the fastest growing commute here is no commute at all. People are spending a lot of times in their homes. There's a lot of isolation. I mean, we've seen that the impact of COVID-19 and the impact of the change in the world has had a huge impact on everyone. And even talking about people that didn't suffer about depression or anxiety, we're seeing that that's an all-time high. I was looking at search trends on Google, and we're seeing that people are looking for how to stay positive, how to stay optimistic. Like, these are things that people are looking for. And it's a sad reality. It's not just about the people that maybe suffered from that before, but it's about everyone, right? We're all going through a lot, and it doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon. So I think it's more important for these brands to really offer solutions for everyone, right? Or like, where can they bring in that can help the communities out there? And I feel like Lululemon, being such a big brand on community and like building this community and bringing the consumer forward, it is a brand that they care about, this, right? Like, how can we make a difference in the world has kind of been like everything that they do that. So how can Lululemon really offer that sensory experience in a situation where customers may choose to really not visit a physical location? And we're saying choose for now, because we're hoping that in the future maybe things will change and people will actually get to choose if you go to a physical location or not. But what we're seeing is that right now, nobody is going much else. Like I feel like that idea of physical location, especially when it comes to working out, there's a lot of fear. People are not wanting to have that. Although they miss that idea of community, there's a fear, that kind of a barrier of fear that's there, right? So we're seeing that overall people, the world just needs a lot more holistic lifestyle, and just like thinking about more conscious capitalism to feel more connected, which we feel that it can really create a social transformation for well, we're talking about the US specifically, that's who we're focusing in as our consumer, but we're seeing that the social transformation is much needed, and it's something that consumers are really looking for. And like I was saying before, there's a lot of seeking for this, and people are actually more active about their mental health and just health overall because of everything that's happening. It's like, how do you stay positive when everything around you seems so negative? And we know that health and fitness are one of the top things that can really make a difference when we're talking about that. So this is what we're seeing as consumers are really seeking to reinvent the journey to fitness. And I think here is more about beyond fitness. It's also fitness and healthcare. Like, I think it's a little bit of both. Is to how do we reinvent the journey, a journey that may have seemed more unattainable and maybe kind of boring. Like, if we're talking about people that may not be into fitness, right? Like, if you're trying to work out and reach your goals, and it's something that is not as exciting as you wish it could be, we're seeing that all of that is changing and people are seeking this. So all of this digital boom that we're seeing with all of these not programs, what are they called? I guess like workout equipment that we're seeing, and all of this change that we're seeing, it is because people are seeking that, and people are seeking a journey that's less tedious, that feels more exciting. People are seeking an experience. Like, that's one thing that I feel like everything that we try to do, especially if you've been stuck at home and have that isolation, is like, you're going to seek everything that you seek outside your home or inside your home is going to feel like more of looking for an experience rather than just something that you do on your day to day. We know that Lululemon is very good at understanding people's goals and how they feel, and aiming to go from looking good to feeling good. I think this was a big thing that we found, that connection from Lululemon and Mirror is huge, because they used to very much focus on the looking good part, which is important for a lot of people. And we feel like it did create that status. And it made people feel good about how they look, but that half of actually turning people into their fitness goals and kind of helping them beyond just feeling good because of the clothes that they're wearing, but more like feeling good because we can actually help you get to your goal. So we feel that connection of the two is a full circle for the category, and the category that they're trying to live. I feel like it's also a differentiator for what they're doing, because a lot of brands may offer one, but seeing that Lululemon plus this Mirror is that creation of appearance, but also that idea of healthy lifestyle and fitness. So we feel that it's something that they can really differentiate and own, a full circle of that looking good, and also plus feeling good as well. We feel that it's a way that they can really come into the market and kind of differentiate themselves to really providing an entire thing for their consumers, and going beyond just like the Lululemon fans, because I think we still have to figure out exactly who our consumer is, because there's a few consumers that I feel, as we were talking about it as a team, there's a few consumers there that we can focus on. Obviously, they're seeing that Lululemon fans are obviously one that you would want to convert, and then other people that just are focused on other athletes may also be ones that you want to convert into this partnership of Lululemon and Mirror. So we really have to figure that out, but we feel that the answer is really in the connection of both the feeling and the looking good, which is that very differentiating connection for Lululemon plus Mirror that nobody else really has. Which is what just here kind of like bringing those two together. I think we were also thinking of kind of like how do those two products coming together feel, which would be interesting differentiator for the brand. Here we have like, what does the Mirror being at home mean? And what we know is that it feels like having a store at home or having that community at home. So we feel that that connection of like, what do the world need right now? We are seeing that people are missing that connection and people are missing that community. So how can we turn that community that used to be at a physical location and make sure that people still have that connection and connectivity at home, which we feel is the exact perfect timing for them to do this acquisition, because it is exactly what people are looking for. People are looking to stay safe in their houses, and also looking for that community outside their house, because nobody wants to be isolated or nobody wants to have that lack of communication with other people. I mean, you may have like a communication with the people that you live in, or you might live by yourself, but at the same time, it's like, how are people seeking that idea of like, how do I find that community? Especially those that were already part of those communities. Like being cut off from that community can be very tough for everyone. So we also know that having the Mirror at home will also be a big impact in the fact that, you know, we can really access customers' data. We can really transform the workout experience and really connect our consumers to communities, which is one big thing. I think the data portion we've talked about, other teams have talked about, it's extremely important. And we see there is a huge opportunity for retail in the future as well, as we talk about the Mirror at home, maybe try-ons or any other things that we can bring into this partnership that can really change the way that people not only work out, but the way that people shop as well, can be very important for Lululemon and Mirror. Because even as we were talking about discussing other ideas of like, what will this mean in the future as well? Because right now we're very focused on the two. So it's the idea of appearance and working out, but also like in the future, what will it mean? What else, what is the potential of this Mirror, right? Like what else can we do that can really expand the way? And another thing that we know is that this idea of Lululemon plus Mirror is obviously a loyalty play. So we're seeing that it is the same thing as Apple, that if you have one or two, you have one product, but the moment that you have two, you become extremely loyal because everything is connected and everything feels so nice, and just that connectivity of the brands. So this is definitely a big loyalty play for them. But beyond that, we know that the loyalty of the Lululemon fans, but also the loyalty of how do we get more people to buy into this partnership. And then from then on, you can definitely do so many more things that can drive loyalty, but also drive more sales, anything that you want to sell to people. And then we have some business implications here. We're still working on these, but just a little bit on the functional side. Obviously the connected fitness, we know that is the innovation aspect, the home interactive studio experience. I think it's like one big thing that we were talking about is selling that experience. Like that's one thing that they can really sell to people. And I think Alicia reminded me of Starbucks and kind of talking about it's beyond selling coffee. It's really selling that experience that's around it. And that's one big thing for this brand. It's like, it's beyond selling clothing and workout equipment. It's really selling you a new experience, and in the way that you can reach your goal in a way that feels like what you're looking for. And it feels like a not only an experience, but also a little bit of status. And I think as we talk about our consumer and we kind of hone in on our consumer, and maybe there's like a primary consumer and a secondary consumer, but the primary, we have to figure out like who is that consumer that we really want to talk to, and who is kind of that low hanging fruit that we have that we can keep going. The functional here, so it's really here in the functional, we felt that we can drive those that, because there's a big overlap between Mirror and Lululemon consumers, which of course have already kind of converted that, but we feel that there's an opportunity to convert those that are not Mirror yet. So that would be more on the functional side. Individual, obviously we know that people are going beyond just sportswear. It's an enhancement to holistic life. Like that was one big thing that we're seeing, is how do we have mental health and everything and fitness and just having a holistic lifestyle, which is what we feel people are going to be looking for because it's what they're going to be needing. And I think as we see the change in the US and I think around the world as well, we'll definitely see that. So that connection of body, mind, and spirit through one device is one big thing that we have. I mean, I'm not sure right now just like the mental health from working out, but I'm not sure if there's anything else that they would be offering. There probably is more stuff that they could start offering in the future to really connect with everyone. And that communal is more about the impact of communities around the world with people committed to being sustainable. Like that's one big thing, and really amplifying the message of healthy, balanced lifestyle, which we feel like that's where the business implication, maybe it's more about that advocacy that we talk about, just because they already have a lot of advocates for their brands. So we feel that communal aspect can be that idea of advocating for other people and trying to get people into the door, like those fans to kind of push others to get into that. And then I think that was it.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to add anything else?
Yes, I want to add something. When I saw the goals of the company that Group One told us about, I think that always we are seeing here is like some poetry about the company, but then when we see the goals, I think they know that this indication that there's not going to be more stores like where they used to be. They can position the clothes more than what they're doing right now. It's a way of putting their clothes in the people's homes, putting the experience of wearing the clothes. I also see myself like in front of the mirror and taking the clothes on me because I have the mirror. So there's a lot of opportunities here that they see not only the holistic lifestyle. At the end, they are a company and they want to have revenue. So it's a good opportunity for them to go beyond the stores. So that's what we saw on the. My English is not very good. I hope you understand.
I heard you just fine.
It's better than mine. So.
There's definitely a big opportunity. I feel like as we look more for a consumer journey of like awareness and conversion and how does that look after? And there's definitely just a lifetime of, I feel like once you get the mirror in the house, there's just so many opportunities, endless opportunities. So we were definitely brainstorming about that.
So we were discussing about like how they will redefine the whole experience of having like a trainer or a personal trainer or taking a class or a lot of stuff, like, and not just the experiences, but the interactions with other people, like with other professionals in the health industry, like having, I don't know, psychologists and stuff like that. So it's like changing that interaction.
Wow. Guys, I saw this presentation literally 24 hours ago, and it's transformed. It has transformed into something really, really targeted, very focused, very story-driven. I love it. It's you guys got great legs here, and I think it lends itself really, really well to the beginning of a pitch. Trav, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, to your point, I thought I saw this, but I didn't see it because we had just went over this, and the amount of length you guys have covered in such a short time. I'm already saying, like, wow, number one. But two, I think the other things that I really loved about this was how you did come together and you provided a lot more clarity and direction around just the overall research in general. So just kind of from last night even until today, like just saying like great job of the turnaround and succinctly defining and clarifying the message. So like great job there. Also, I really love the the stats that you pointed out here as well. And I love that you guys used a different model. So we kind of saw a spread of the, 4Cs, some SWOT. We've seen the Ikigai now. Like we all have a good understanding of at least baseline how some of these models are used. So that I really love that you guys put that one in there. And then some of the stats that also jumped out for me, particularly kind of one was the 1/3 of Americans showing signs of clinical anxiety and or depression. And then 34 out of 100 experiencing anxiety, depression and or both at home. When I saw these slides, like my body was like, oh, wow, like, is it that bad? So like I felt that emotion just from that one data point. So kudos to you for pointing that out. And then I also really love the idea of changing, stores and focusing on more of a community aspect and different ways that people are missing out on that. And I think that the communal impact of it could be interesting depending upon how you position, your solutions in the coming weeks. And yeah, overall, I'd say like great job and really love the progress. That's at least my take, and I'm pretty sure I'd probably have some thoughts after you go, Eric. But that's my take.
Yeah, no, I'm going to echo a lot of the same thoughts here. I think for me, and I know it's getting a little late and we're a little bit past time, so I want to get straight to the point. I think there are a few things that I think would really bolster what you have here right now, the materials that would take it to the next level. One is, and I think the team 1, as well as team 2, did it really well, where they put together sort of like a what we in healthcare would call a patient ID, but here I guess we would call it like a user profile, right? I want to know more about specifically who are you going after? You talk a lot around sort of the brand positioning. So from a top-down perspective, this is what's going on in the industry. This is what the brand needs to do in order to fulfill a need, right? You set it up perfectly. The problem, the opportunity, and the solution, sort of getting to the solution. And it seems like you're driving really down 2 paths. One is the retail experience in the home. So how do you sell clothing through the mirror, and then not only Lululemon clothing, but maybe other products as well, right? So this holistic ecosystem of retail at home. And the other solution is you want to build community and really make sure that the home can become a hub for communal fitness and health and wellness, right? Those are 2 paths. But what I'm missing is, who is this for? Right? Not every athlete wants this. Not every fitness junkie wants this. Not every person that enrolls himself in the Lululemon or Mirror ecosystems respectively necessarily want these things. So narrow it back down, like backtrack. Whereas group 1, I told them, start to build out a story. For you guys, you got a story, but backtrack it for me. Like, who are you selling to? Build some sort of user profile that tells me what is their media consumption behavior, why do they need brands in their lives, and what do they look for brands to do, right? And you have so many examples that you voice over, right? One example, like Starbucks, I heard Apple, I heard all these other companies. Put them on the slide. I want you to bolster your story with the actual research itself, right? If you have analogs to things, right? So, for example, one thing that you mentioned was Lululemon is figuring out a whole new way of selling products. I want to see other brands that have done this in the past. And it doesn't have to be as sophisticated, doesn't have to be as successful, doesn't have to be as innovative, right? But it just has to be some kind of brand that has done something in a similar vein that leads us to believe that this is the evolution of that, right? But what is that moment, right? I think that's what's missing for me is, one, analogs of brand examples, right? You have the stats, you have the behavior, show me the brands who have done similar things in the past. And then 2, really building out that better kind of understanding of who is your core consumer that you're going after within the Venn diagram of Lululemon and Mirror, right? I think after you do those 2 things, you'll have something really, really strong. I would say for you guys, because of where you're at right now, please schedule time with myself and Trav a little bit earlier next week, let's say Monday. Clearly, you guys can do rapid iteration. So I want to make sure you guys are heading in the right direction for sure. But it seems like you guys are in a really, really good spot. So congrats on that. Trav, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just 2 things actually. I lied. So the first thing is I love that you brought up the thought of awareness and conversion. Like that's one thing I also didn't really think about as much from the other presentations. Like I love that you you brought that up and kind of how you would position it. And then I also loved the other piece that you mentioned about how people are finding the whole experience. So the idea of, you know, how would people react if they're now talking to their psychologist through a mirror on their wall? Like, what would that look like? And I just want to highlight that for a couple of reasons. A, it's a completely different approach of thinking, which just will put you in a whole different direction. Like if you decide that because of the, you know, 1/3 of people feeling anxiety or depression, that like actually a bigger need is to have an in-home screen therapist. Just an idea, right? But I think that going down that path will develop a completely different set of solutions than focusing on a fitness and healthcare brand, right? It's just a different lens. And I also want everyone to use the flexibility to then not just be pigeonholed into having 3 different versions of, you know, a health and fitness product, but then also saying what other ways can we connect to other industries and other potential use cases for these products? Because this is how they're going to be thinking about it. They're going to be thinking, what markets can we tap into? How are we uniquely positioned to solve these problems? And what can we do to get there? So just wanted to highlight those couple of things too.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Trav. We are a little bit out of time. We're past time. So here's what I'll do. We didn't get to show the Adidas example, but I will say next week, that's what I'll kick off with is the Adidas new business pitch. And I'll give you guys a little bit of an idea of how do we go from setting out the core consumer, then going on to the problem, opportunity, solution, and start building that story arc. And we'll fall just short of the actual creative ideas. I legally can't show you the creative ideas because they got accepted and they're actually going live. But we'll stop just short of that. And that's how we'll kick off next time. We'll also start to talk about frameworks for building out a rollout for ideas, right? So not only are you going to, after next week, start thinking about actual solutions, but also how to present them and how to break it up strategically into some kind of tactical ecosystem. That's sort of for next week. But for this week, for the next 7 days, is everyone clear on what they need to work on? Is there any questions, any concerns, any call outs, anything like that? Please speak up now.
Cool.
Go ahead, Jose.
Huh? What?
You got nothing?
No, I was humming.
All right.
Okay. Well, it seems like there's nothing. Okay, so great. Awesome. So
Wait, hold on. I'm just going to do one more double check. I'm double checking because I was always the kid in class that I wouldn't raise my hand until right before we left. And I was like, wait, can we just answer this one thing? Nobody has any questions?
No, I mean, I can restate it just to make sure that I understand it. How about that?
I knew we'd get one. We'd get one.
So you want us to just really solidify the research and then based on that research create or improve upon the presentation and put it together in a manner that is more story-like so that we can prepare better for the pitch.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the next week is going to be very much the upfront, right? So really taking all the research that you've done, which is different pieces of information floating around, put it into a cohesive story that proves to me that you have a problem to solve, right? If I go through next week's presentation and I have no idea what problem you're solving for, I'm sort of lost, right? So that's the first goal, which is what is the core problem that you're going to overcome, right? And it could be a categorical problem, it could be a business problem, it could be a consumer mindset or behavioral problem that you're solving for. It could be COVID specific, right? So this last group just said, what happens in a world without stores, right? How are we selling stuff, right? That's the problem we're solving for. Another group said, you know, how are we using Mirror to solve for people's anxiety about going to the gym or going to a public space to work out, right? That's another problem to solve for, right? So really focusing on the problem, then here's the big opportunity. This is why Lululemon plus Mirror exists. And what is the solution, right? What is the marketing solution, the service design solution, the product solution, the communications or content solution, right? And starting to set up getting to the solution, right? You're not going to tell me what your creative idea is. I don't want to hear it yet. We're not there yet. But everything short of here's our big idea, I want to see it built into some kind of story arc. So that means group one loved all the rigor. You guys clearly put in a lot of hours. Build me a deck, right? Now you really have to start building that deck. And so a few tips and tricks on how to actually fill those slides. So for this last group, I mentioned some kind of user profile. That's usually something that we'll have in the upfront, right? Give me a picture of what our core consumer that we're going after looks like. And based on what you've shown me today, none of you should have the same user profile, because you're all going after a very different path, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted. If you guys all came to me with the same frameworks and the same problem and the same users, I'd be bored, right? Be bored stiff. It's good that you guys went through different paths, right? So some kind of user profile is going to be really helpful. Going through and maybe I don't know that I need to see like a SWOT analysis or 4 C's or an Ikigai like literally broken down, but showing me that you went through the steps in terms of some kind of story and saying, literally, I want to see one slide that literally says, this is the big opportunity. This is the big problem we're solving for. Like if you have those slides in there that chapterizes your presentation, that will really help bring this to life, right? So those are some of the core pieces. And then I would say going back to the competitive landscape, if you think through one of the slides that I built in for this week, which is who's your direct competitor, your categorical or cultural competitor, and then your experiential or technological competitor. I think if you go through that lens, you'll really have a lot of success in building out why does this Lululemon plus Mirror product offering exist in the world currently? Does that help clarify?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's not that.
Awesome.
Anyone question? Anyone comments?
No.
Oh wait, we got one. You're muted, Russ.
Rosie, you're muted.
Rosie, you're muted. We couldn't hear you.
Rosie, you're muted.
Unmute. There you
I know.
go.
I'm just saying that Roosevelt is there. Do you have a question, Roosevelt?
Oh, yeah, I've been watching. Sorry, I couldn't connect. No, it was about what Eric said about being with him on Monday or contacting him by Monday.
You said to us that you want to see us on Monday.
Yeah, as early as possible. If Monday's good for you guys, if not Tuesday, whenever, I would just say, plop something down on our calendars. And I think, Michael, you also have, you're on mute. There you go.
You have something to say?
It's a kid.
Oh my goodness.
That's Pablo. They have the same problem.
Oh, interesting.
Technology, guys. Technology. It's all about.
All right, we all have to buy mirrors so we can all speak to each other through this communal virtual workout platform. That's what's going to happen. Okay.
Wait, go ahead. I'm gonna see if we can hear you, but if not, Michael, would you mind repeating?
No, it's all about digital, right? Oh, he came cut off. Never mind. He had something to say.
Okay. Well, I mean, also, guys, feel free to just email me, right? And if email's too difficult, this is weird, but find me on Instagram and DM me. Like, I want to make myself available to you guys.
The answers.
Whatever works. And also, I didn't get to meet with every group last week. I only met with group 3. So if you guys want to pop in my inbox for this week, please feel free to do so. And I think you're back.
Huh?
He's just showing the screen. Okay, never mind. Okay, all right. Is everyone good? Can we wrap for tonight?
Sí.
Bye.
We're good.
Cool, guys.
Bye.
Until next week.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye, guys.